right now.
Families were in the water. People were all around the shoreline.
A daring rescue executed in the dark of night.
This kind of scene from a movie.
Mothers, fathers, children trapped behind raging fire lines. 3 pilots who flew over those flames.
Most of our search and rescues are outside of the fire or in a safer area.
Take you inside their harrowing rush to rescue hundreds of people praying for help. Plus, record snowfall.
It's the worst I've ever known.
Record rainfall. Much needed moisture soaked the rain-starved West. But will the winter's rain and snow actually fuel more wildfire flames?
That's the double-edged sword.
A remarkable team of weather experts.
This could be a delayed wildfire season.
Weighs in with their warnings for all of us. Then, when the flames ignite,
we can get there quickly.
These are the first men and women to parachute in.
When that alarm goes off, there's not a person here that doesn't get really excited.
A rare look at how smoke jumpers are trained to help protect your family and property. And from the fire lines to your front door.
It just feels to be apocalyptic.
What you need to know about what you're breathing this summer, even if the wildfires are hundreds of miles from your home. This is In the Line of Fire, the 2023 wildfire season. Hello, everybody. I'm Eric Johnson. Every summer, we prepare for the worst wildfires that the West has to offer. Year after year, those fires are becoming more and more intense. So we ask the important question, what is the fire season looking like for 2023? Well, a winter of record snow and rain totals for most of the West saturated our forests. But reporter Lincoln Graves explains why the hope for a milder wildfire season could fade just as quickly as the summer heat rises.
Across the American West,
this winter really is unprecedented.
The 2022-23 winter season wreaked havoc.
You're telling me that this winter is
the worst I've ever known.
From record snow in the Sierras and the Rockies.
We have had as much snow in just this one season as the last 3 seasons combined.
To a deluge of rainfall in lower elevation. Consider these numbers. Utah recorded its highest snowpack of all time this past winter. Oregon missed out on the bulk of western storms and still had snowpack 170% of normal in early April, the best since 2008. In Nevada, snow accumulation was the highest ever recorded for the month of March. In California, at the start of the water year, 94% of the state was in severe drought or worse. At the beginning of April, less than 1% of the state was in that category, a massive improvement. It hasn't happened everywhere, but across much of the West, the skies opened up this winter. Abundant rainfall at lower elevations and up high, record snowfall. You'd think that means good things for wildfire season, but it's not necessarily that simple.
Just charred right through there, and you can see it coming up onto the trees.
Shauna Polson can't shake what happened to her family in the heat of last summer.
So we just kind of threw ourselves in the car and we left. It was very scary, very upsetting to everybody.
Hundreds were evacuated. In the end, firefighters saved all homes, including Shauna's. Shauna, like everyone else in the West, has endured the snowy and wet winter. It's been enough to give her encouragement about this coming wildfire season. The reality is a bit more complicated. On the surface, a wet and snowy winter can tame the coming fire season.
Essentially, if you have more snowpack and more snow, and the later in the year that it lasts, the less likely you're going to have a lot of wildfires or significant wildfires.
Nick Nosler is a meteorologist with the National Interagency Fire Center in Boise. He says a heavy snowpack acts as a blanket, keeping potentially explosive fuels from drying out. But a simple pattern change in the weather can change the outlook.
So you can have a very heavy winter snowpack, but if conditions change in the spring and you get very warm and dry, that snowpack can melt very quickly, and you can enter fire season around normal or sometimes even earlier than expected.
That's one potential scenario. However, at this point, fire forecasts are looking good in high snowpack regions.
Right now, we are looking at definitely a below normal at least start to the fire season in those areas.
Basil Numerzitsky is a meteorologist with Great Basin Predictive Services in Salt Lake City. He's not too worried about high elevations right now. Lower elevations can be a different story.
When you have abundant snowpack, you also have abundant precipitation. And of course, in the lower elevations, a lot of that falls in the form of rain. It grows a very thick grass crop. So in the valleys below 5,000 feet, we definitely get concerned.
This can be the big downside of a wet winter. More rain equals more grass growth, a prime fuel for wildfires.
That's the double-edged sword. Yep, exactly.
Kaylee Guild works as a wildfire communications and prevention specialist. As long as things stay wet, grasses aren't a problem, but hot summer temperatures can cause an issue.
If and when we decide to dry out, when it begins to cure, that's when there's issues, and that's when things become super easy to spark a fire.
If potential fuels don't catch fire this year, the danger can increase the following year.
It turns into what we consider carryover fuel. So it carries over, it's dead fuel, it carries over into the next year.
There are, of course, many variables with how fire season turns out. Some states may avoid fires, while others see destructive ones. People like Shauna Polson are just hoping for the best after enduring a wet and snowy winter.
I'm hoping that maybe all the snow will keep things more green for longer periods of time, and it won't be such an issue.
These images might well be what people remember most about the winter of 2023. This is snow in the Lake Tahoe area of California. It was so deep that we watched as people walked onto their rooftops to blow off the snow. Lake Tahoe and some surrounding areas dealt with nearly 700 inches of snow. That's more than 58 feet of the stuff. That same area has also dealt with massive wildfires in the past. The destructive Calder fire burned 22,000 acres nearby in 2021. No matter what the season brings, we know there will be wildfires. If previous years suggest anything, it's that the fires could be dramatic. We crunched the numbers and found that nearly 22,000 square miles have burned in 7 western states over the past 3 years alone. That's about the size of West Virginia. And when those wildfires ignite, sometimes the first defense falls from the sky. And I'm not talking about rain. Smoke jumpers, as they are known, are the first to drop into the fire lines in an effort to protect our families and property. Reporter Wright Gazaway takes us to one of the few smoke jumper training bases in the entire United States.
Jump spot, 5-1, the ground wind's still the same.
This is not a pleasure flight.
Ground winds are 2 to 3 out of the southwest, 2 to 3 out of the southwest.
You're looking at wildland firefighters.
1,500, get in the door.
Always on call when a fire rages out of control.
You're clear, you're clear.
But this group fights from the air.
Get ready!
Jumping from airplanes, parachuting to the fire lines, in this video, dropping into the Klamath National Forest.
Down here is more of the business end of what we do.
And now, they're training for fire season 2023.
This is our gear bag.
They skydive with almost 100 pounds of gear from just 3,000 feet.
When that alarm goes off, there's not a person here that doesn't get really excited. Whether you're on the load or not, whether you're a rookie or that's your 30th year smoke jumping, like, people love it. Everybody's going to run to this room.
The group mostly goes to fires in areas that ground crews can't get to by road or trail. Sometimes the fires are as small as an acre. They say once they land, their job is pretty much like any other wildland firefighter. They train to limit the risks you and I assume come along with jumping out of a plane into a forest from a few thousand feet above the ground.
The risk is there. It's our job, and that's the reason we try to get as good as we can at it.
This is the plane smoke jumpers go up into the air in. It's set up for 10 smoke jumpers, 2 pilots, a spotter, and an assistant spotter. It's in the air as early as February for training. Smoke jumpers jump all the way through the end of fire season.
We've got an airplane, fixed-wing airplane, that can get, to every corner of Oregon in less than an hour or less. That'll take us into Washington.
Josh Cantrell is the Redmond Smoke Jumpers base training manager.
When they call us, we expect to go suppress the fire. Full suppression. Initial attack, full suppression, put the fire out.
They go to fires you may never even know about.
Bad on tack.
The goal is you never find out.
Boy, amazing stuff. 85% of all wildfires are caused by humans. Sometimes it's an accident, other times it's arson, but we always turn to our brave firefighters for help.
Families were in the water. People were all around the shoreline.
A holiday weekend turns into a nightmare. Hundreds of people are trapped by explosive wildfires. 3 pilots take us through a daring, life-saving rescue. Plus, more than 200 years of weather experience. These expert meteorologists from across the West discuss whether the fire season will be mild or extreme. This is In the Line of Fire, getting you prepared for the 2023 wildfire season. Welcome back. You know, I recently spoke with 10 meteorologists from our Sinclair broadcast group TV stations across the West. These are the experts in local weather forecasting. We examined the very unusual winter across much of the West and what they think the wildfire season may look like through the summer months. Here's just some of what they predicted.
We're going to probably have a pretty big wildfire season around much of the southern Southern California after all of the snow and the rain that we've had.
As we move into August and September, wildfires could increase. But the way it looks right now to me is I think we're going to see a fairly quiet fire weather season because of the amount of moisture that we have in our soil.
Going into 2023, much of the northern Rockies, we are already under moderate drought conditions. Parts of the Bitterroot and Lolo National Forest and the Beaverhead National Forest are already in severe drought conditions. So really only time will tell for us.
I'm concerned about 2023 because the potential for seeing wildfires with all the fuel that we're going to have on the ground this summer from how wet it's been this winter, that dries out in August and September, which is our peak fire season. We could have some big problems by the end of this summer.
Sometimes you get monsoons that pop up here late July and August. It's really hard to tell right now if that's going to happen, if that's going to be the pattern. We get the monsoons breaking out here, we get a bunch of lightning, and all of a sudden our fire season's off and running, whether we had a dry winter or not. So there.
You can watch much more of that discussion. Just go to this station's website and click the story labeled 10 Meteorologists Predict the Severity of the Coming Fire Season. Still to come, 3 hero pilots. Hear how they managed to save hundreds of people who were trapped by an explosive wildfire.
As we actually approached our landing area, you can see all the burnt debris, all the trees burning, the headlights from the vehicles. Families were in the water. People were all around the shoreline.
Families on a vacation suddenly surrounded by raging wildfires with no way to escape. Their only hope for survival was a miracle. They knew it, so did the people trying to get to them before the flames. What unfolded over the next few minutes and hours is truly the stuff movies are made of. But this was real life in a scene that unfolded in Central California in 2020. Reporter Liz Gonzalez introduces us to 3 helicopter pilots who became heroes for the hundreds trapped behind fire lines on a holiday weekend.
Patrol 52 could not make it down to Mammoth Pool.
And my son and I were getting ready to do some hot dogs and barbecue.
It was Labor Day weekend 2020.
I was actually out barbecuing in the backyard with the kids and the wife, and wasn't expecting a call.
They're going to have to go to the water. That is their safest bet. If the fire keeps coming up to the shore edge, they need to get into the water. That will be their safest bet.
A call asking for help from the California National Guard 40th Combat Aviation Brigade based out of Fresno. A wildfire trapped campers at Mammoth Pool Reservoir in the Sierra Nevada, about 90 miles away.
Potentially 30 people stranded.
Most of our search and rescues are outside of the fire or in a safer area and not inside the active flames themselves.
We can see the wall of smoke when we actually took off.
The wall of smoke got thicker, and so we tried going around from the east and couldn't.
We actually started getting in there. Visibility started going down more and more. Luckily, our goggles allowed us to see through that somewhat, and due to the fire, it illuminated the valleys and the mountains.
Gauning and Zhang had flown missions in Iraq.
There were still people still shooting at us.
But this danger was different.
And to go into the black and to go into the black for 20 minutes to go deep into the fire was something that we were all experiencing for the first time.
I was more worried of us hitting a wire or hitting something out there because we can't see.
As we actually approached our landing area, you can see all the burnt debris, all the trees burning, the headlights from the vehicles.
This kind of scene from a movie. Saw a few stranded boats on the other side of the lake and didn't see nobody. All I could see was flames and embers.
Families were in the water. People were all around the shoreline. We were told that they had no idea anybody was coming.
Landing their Black Hawk helicopter and a second helicopter, a Chinook out of Stockton, proved challenging, but not impossible. The drought, in this case, a blessing. Low lake levels exposed boat ramps and gave them a place to land.
Just outside the rotor disc was burning vegetation. It was all around. It would have been extremely difficult if the water level of the reservoir was higher.
Once on the ground, the crew faced a new challenge.
It was not 30 people. It was at least 30 families.
The Black Hawk only has 11 seats in the back.
So I had both rows down. People were sitting. I had people, children on people's lap. People were sitting on the ground. I had dogs in between, wherever they can fit. I never thought I would be able to fit that many people in all at once.
I was in the front seat, and I could look behind me, and there was somebody right there over my shoulder.
There was a mother with her child in her arms. She must have been maybe 2 years old. I could see the relief in the mother's eyes and just the gratitude.
I had a woman sitting right here with the newborn. It reminded me of my kids. I ended up giving one of my headsets. I actually had an extra headset. I gave it to her, and she covered the newborn's ears.
The arrival to Fresno brought on a wave of relief for those on board the helicopter and their families waiting, and determination for the pilots.
Got gas and talked to our initial briefer and said, hey, we want to go back again. There's more people there to get.
All told, the pilots from both helicopters rescued around 250 people on 3 trips over 10 hours.
Joey, I'm so glad you're back home safe. I love you guys so much.
It didn't really hit me because of the adrenaline.
It was definitely my top mission so far.
They were honored by then-President Donald Trump with Distinguished Flying Crosses, one of the military's highest decorations, and later with the Prince Philip Helicopter Rescue Award by the Honorable Company of Air Pilots in London.
It was incredibly humbling and fantastic. You just do what you're trained to do.
I didn't think about it as unthinkable. I just knew people needed our help.
Boy, incredible. They are absolutely heroes. Take a look at these images. That's New York City in 2021, blanketed by wildfire smoke all the way from right here in the west. We see a woman right there pushing a baby stroller draped in a cloth for protection from the smoke. No matter where you are, wildfire smoke can affect your health.
We have these big smoke events that come through for a week or two, and as soon as they're gone, people really want to forget about it.
But we can't forget. Still ahead, just how dangerous is all of that wildfire smoke compared to other stuff we breathe in. In the Line of Fire continues after this break. For the last several years, we've become accustomed to seeing haze and thick smoke from destructive wildfires blanketing western Washington. No doubt we'll see it again this summer. Experts say it puts us at risk. Reporter Steve McCarran takes a look at the data and how you can plan right now to breathe easy.
Wildfire smoke can easily transform normally picturesque views of major city skylines into seas of haze.
It just feels pretty apocalyptic.
Shocking images show how the effects from a bad wildfire season in 2021 stretched all the way to New York City. And at one point last year, Seattle had the worst air quality in the world.
Are we getting to the point where this is going to be norm?
Sadly, I think probably so.
Savannah Devlin, who studied wildfires as a source of pollution for the past 5 years, tells me, as far as we know, wildfire smoke does not cause an onset of new disease, but the particulate matter in the air can make existing health conditions like asthma and cardiovascular disease worse. A study from the Scripps Institution of Oceanography at UC San Diego found fine particulates from wildfire smoke can be several times more harmful to our health than things like car exhaust.
We have these big smoke events that come through for a week or two, and as soon as they're gone, people really want to forget about it instead of preparing for the next fire that comes through.
Devlin says part of that preparation involves knowing the risk. This map shows the more than 4,000 air quality monitoring stations that are owned and operated mainly by state environmental agencies across the country. You'll notice each one has a number that ranges from 0 to 500 and 6 color-coded categories that correspond to different levels of health concern. The higher the number, the bigger the concern. Researchers at Stanford University found the number of people experiencing an extreme smoke day increased 27-fold over the past decade, with nearly 25 million people across the lower 48 affected by dangerous smoke in 2020 alone.
It is clear that we are seeing a pattern.
Washington State's land commissioner says one of the best ways to reduce the risk of these extremely smoky days is to attack wildfires quickly and stop them from growing so rapidly. That takes a lot of money. Something she has made a big focus in recent years is shareable resources between states, like helicopters and planes, become harder to get during long, intense wildfire seasons.
More of our resources will come from the southeast part of the United States or the northeast or the Midwest parts because their fire seasons are different. But when it comes to the western United States, we are all hands on deck, all of us trying to fight these fires as fast as we can.
Thank you, Steve. You know, when you think about it, the most important thing we do as local television stations is to provide you with life-saving information when you need it. In the case of wildfires, we want to alert you this summer as soon as we know that conditions are ripe to fuel those fires. We want to help protect you and your family by providing critical information like the specific locations of fires and evacuation orders. And we want to empower you with the information you need to take action whenever you are concerned about your family's safety. To do that, we have expert meteorologists across the West Coast, teams at our local TV stations in California, Washington, Oregon, Nevada, Utah, Idaho, and Montana are ready. Turn to them for the information you need anytime wildfires threatened. They'll be on TV, on our app, our websites, and of course, on social media. We all owe a debt of gratitude, don't we, to our first responders, as well as the men and women who venture out to fight the fires in the most extreme of conditions. These wildfires are a part of our lives in 2023 and moving forward. The best we can do is to be informed and prepared, and your local Sinclair television station is here to help with that. Thank you so much for joining us.